I give up trying to intro the show with the intro music from now on.
I could listen to that for an hour. I mean, what the heck?
But there's Greg hoisting. It's what time in the morning and
hop
when you have
water. What? What? Hoisting what?
You're a musician, so it's okay.
Yeah, I'm drinking hop water. I mean, that's how bad things are. You know.
Hop water.
Yeah, well, that's what it
hop
says.
Water.
Hop water. There's no.
But what can I say? We have to just COVID. It's delayed things. Seems like it's been 7 years gone, but it's only 2.5 maybe. But we're really thrilled to have back our friends from DVC. That's what dream, visualize, create. I was just going to say conquer. We're really
We'd love to do
finally
that.
coming back in June from the 9th to the 16th with their first production, and we're very lucky to have in the studio Artemis and of course Mario. Hi.
Hello.
Hey.
Good to be back.
And they look like Marvin the Martian a little, or Bane with that on. Look like Bane just a little bit.
I am in full-on lockdown safety mode.
And we
for our
appreciate, we're
production.
very safe in the studio. We appreciate it. But once, just a little background because we've been a while. How did you start DVC?
So back in the previous millennium, in the year 1999,
Ooh.
I began my illustrious teaching career for the Rochester City School District. We'll skip some years in between, but essentially the second year of teaching, I just put together some after-school club at the recommendation of my supervisor, and I thought, well, we'll have it be this sort of a little drama club. We'll get together and talk about things we enjoy watching, movies and stuff, and do little skits and monologues. And my sibling MJ is an actor by profession.
Who picks on me on every play almost. He singles me out during them.
Well, that's kind of how MJ rolls. But so, my family's kind of always had that connection. That's where some interest, where the interest was for me. And I found some artsy kids. And so it's obviously grown. In 2011, it became a community theater group. DVC became a Rochester community theater group that still has students from where I work, Wilson Mangan High School. And most of DVC is comprised of graduates of Wilson Mangan High School. And we also have other artists from the community. And then together we sort of create what we think is a very important facet that needs to be in society, which is creating theater that is socially conscious and relevant and affordable, and can make an impact on the community at large. So that's the sort of stuff that we've done. It's expanded and shifted and grown over the 2 decades. We would have had our 20th anniversary show and celebration back in 2020, but something happened. I don't remember what it was. We had to cancel it. And then in 2021, we were going to do it, but then something happened. I don't remember what it was.
You have a lot of things happening that you don't know about.
Hey, that's what brings us together.
I think it was the same thing. What do you know? And now in 2022, we're still not doing that production yet. We're holding off on it.
Because that same something that you don't know about has happened.
It's
Let's
all
just
up
call
in
it
the air.
that too. We use the word too much. Let's just use that.
Something.
But Artemis, were you just like artistic person? Are you graduate or? I've seen you in a lot of
yeah.
stuff, but I have no freaking idea.
Oh, it's cool. Yeah, I actually did go to Wilson as well. I was in Mario's classes. It was
Well,
great.
don't shake your head. It was...
He just misses those times where we would share snacks and everyone would look at us like, what is going on here? He'd just be in the middle of teaching and walk over and take the snacks off my desk. It's fine.
I would also like to point out, I don't know that I've ever actually heard Artemis call me Mario. That might have been the very first time.
I think so, yeah. And it's quite
This show's
uncomfortable.
casualness just
Right.
affects.
Please, I could get reported for this.
But yeah, I knew that he was doing a drama club. I'd always been, I was doing acting when I was younger. In 5th grade, I did a play on the westward expansion, and I got to play Sacagawea and everything.
Oh,
And
cool.
Made a lot of money off of that too.
oh yeah, just rolling in
I've
it.
seen the coins. I've seen the
About as much
coins.
as she made, probably.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so I was always very interested in it, and then I came in after school during 8th grade and loved every bit of it, and have stayed here since. Even got a tattoo of it, actually.
What's the DVC? What does it stand for? I was late to the party here, so I didn't.
He's a drummer, remember?
So it stands for Dream, Visualize, Create.
Okay.
And I looked it up on my phone before I came in so I could pretend.
Sorry,
to be
I'm ill
smart.
prepared today.
There's a thing behind that too, but I
Yeah.
don't know how much we want to reveal here. But
It's up to you.
the-
You know, you
well,
always keep
the
them wanting more. Keep them wanting more. Remember.
all I'm saying is the letters DVC had to mean something, so we had to create something for them.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Because people like Artemis, who'd been around for I don't want to throw like 10 years.
Oh yeah,
I
over
mean, at
10
least,
years.
right?
Yeah.
You've done shows with us for over a decade.
Yep.
Have it tattooed on their bodies and stuff. So it's gonna have to be DVC forever, even if we change what it might mean.
Yep.
That speaks to the quality of it, though, and how much people enjoy it.
Uh,
And what I always
Something.
like, I've always said, like, I've been doing this for senior shows for years, like when I was in my 2s, because I'm not that old.
Right.
But it's
Right.
my show, you can lie about your age on your own show.
Definitely younger than Artemis. Yeah. I can
Yeah.
tell.
Oh yeah, I'm like 103 now.
Yeah.
It's been a long
In
journey.
the shade.
But what I've always liked is both two things: the diversity and how you tackle interesting off the beaten path plays and stuff. You don't just go like pick something. Well, everybody's done this one. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
we-
where does that come from? Is it you who finds it? Does some of your students suggest it? Maybe does somebody suggest it?
Well, we do have a board that discusses these things, and we're a very collaborative group. But when DVC was in its full swing pre-COVID, we were usually doing about 3 different things a year. And I was always joking that it was sort of old school traditional. We're very traditional. So like a traditional wedding, you have something old, new, and then something borrowed. We've never...
Is it blue though?
Well, most things we do are pretty sad.
Yeah.
So what we do is we like to reinvent old pieces. So we're not against doing something that has been around a long time. We like to do Shakespeare.
Yes.
I don't know if you recall the last show DVC did way back in the year
Which
2019.
which I also love, and it's Rosen. Some Russian Jelena or something. I never pronounced it right. We've done it on here.
Ruslana
Correct.
and Yelena.
I was
Actually-
glad I had like the letter right at least.
You did. You got the J.
This person saying to the left of me actually played Yelena, which would be,
I
of course,
did.
the Russian Juliet. We staged it in modern day Russia.
And it had the twist ending a little bit, which you did not expect out of the blue.
Yeah.
I teach Shakespeare. I love Shakespeare, but I think you can have respect for Shakespeare and still twist and turn and mutilate it into any way you need to get across to make it relevant. And in this case, it was to talk about to kind of explore this idea of Russia's anti-gay agenda back when that was Russia's biggest problem. And that was back when that was the dumbest thing Russia was doing.
Yeah.
And so we decided that we would have these 2 characters that these 2 girls would fall in love, and then the tragedy would befall as obviously their families dealt with that. Ruslana's family, Romeo's, was a bit more liberal-minded, and Yelena's was sort of closed down traditional czarist. So anyway, that's the kind of stuff that we like to do is change and modify. But we also like to bring in a lot of new material. The Sav siblings, myself and MJ, do either find things that we like that people we know have created, or we like to create things ourselves. And this actual show, the dialogue was written by me. And it was a product of... I just look around at the world and go, okay, what's something that we can, explore through the medium of art?
Yeah.
And it's tricky because I'm not going to call it a sequel. I'm definitely not going to say it's part 2 because it's not. It is its own story.
Yeah.
However,
Is it the next day?
it is. It is, in fact, 7 years later.
Oh, okay.
What?
As the show is called 7 Years Gone.
Very good. A good tie-in.
It is a separate standalone piece that explores issues from the perspective of characters that were already in existence because we created a show, it actually was 6 years ago, but the show took place the year before we produced it, so it's still 7 years technically.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Artistic license, close enough.
Right. And it's
Seven's a cool number, too. It sounds better.
It is. It's a lucky number.
Also, the Richie Sambora song is called 7 Years Gone.
Yep.
So it was a little weird to incorporate that song and have it not be 7 years. Anyway, so it's a return to a show. So there was this show, which we called Junk, which, and this has many meanings as we could. But the idea was, this was, by the way, the last show I ever did in my high school. I don't know if there's a coincidence or not. But we did this musical about all these people addicted to heroin. And,
so fun.
And the premise is that one of them dies. One of the circle of friends dies. And then all of them are dealing with how to come to terms with their own addictions or the loss of their friend. And, of course, we see the significant other of the dead person or the brother, all of these people looking at it from a different perspective. And then we have Artemis, plays the character of Kennedy, who comes in to the group as an outsider. Kennedy is not a part of the group when this happens. She comes in and interacts with them through this process. But, alas, Kennedy is, of course, using drugs. And so this creates a lot of the conflict in the first show, which ran over the course of, say, a week or so. I could not write anything over the pandemic. I was not feeling very creative in that regard at all. And when it became obvious that it was time for DVC to try to make a comeback of some kind, the only thing that came to me was these characters' voices saying, well, this story's not over yet. And so then I wanted to tell a different story using 6 of the 8 original characters. I checked with the actors to see if they were available. That's my special effects machine.
Yeah.
We love that on the show, though. We love, that's why it's live. It's not live, but we love little, my phone will go off. Or Greg's got the bat phone there. It goes off.
It's not live, but it might as well be.
Yeah. We don't cut it out.
Right. So, and then I continue to tell that story. Now, obviously, their journey, they're in a different place. The music we've incorporated is different. The vibe of the show is different. The concept, all of that stuff has taken on this new entity. But as it turns out, the idea of exploring people's struggles with addiction is not an outdated concept. Though it would be great if it were.
Yeah.
And so characters like Kennedy and 5 others have returned. And so now here's a different story with these people. So.
And the one thing, I'm just going to go back for just 1 second on our usual tangents, but just very briefly, like Shakespeare. I consider this I've been talking to some friends who I've seen play out about folk music because they play. And one of my friends who did Scarborough Fair was like, I always goof up the lyrics. And I said, look, it's a folk song. It's meant to be reinterpreted for the times, changed around. Take any folk song from the original. It's like from point A to point here, changed around. So I think classic material like that, it was 1600s around there.
Yeah.
Close enough. But, okay, we're a little far from there. It's time we could change it up, add stuff to it.
Right.
Yeah.
And everything else.
Have you ever tried doing I know this is going to sound weird. Have you ever thought the kids could get into doing a silent movie? Like an old Buster Keaton-ish? Like the old
I'll interrupt
comedy,
for 1 second, though. I think,
stuff.
to me, you can tell me what you think. I think in terms of writing stuff, comedy might be the hardest to pull off, too.
It's tricky. We don't do very much. My thing is...
You put humor in it. You could put humor in everything.
But kids can be very expressive. If they don't have to talk, they'll come up with something.
It is true that that is an interesting concept. So one thing, and this is not exactly what you're talking about, but we did take on the challenge of doing this show called Black Comedy, which is the trick is that It's on stage and the lights are off.
Oh, yeah, I do
When the lights
remember
are
that.
Oh,
off,
how cool.
Yeah.
it's supposed to be everyone can see, and when the lights are on, everyone's in the dark. So all the actors on stage do spend most of the play fumbling around in the dark.
Or exercising.
Oh, right, or that. And then someone lights a match, and then the lights come on, which means the lights dim. So that's, of course, not exactly what you're talking about, but I guess it is comedy, and it does have that kind of...
It's
it
like
did,
that
like,
noise
when you
is
were-
off thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And you
cool.
were in the
That was a
audience,
cool-
like I was in the audience, and I didn't know what to expect. And I was like, "Can we have a power outage?"
No.
Yeah.
Then I got it. You know,
The
I
first
was
5
like,
minutes of the show were in darkness.
Just
yeah.
dark.
And people walk around on the stage acting like they can see. So, yeah, it's interesting.
Oh, how did you do
I
that
like
with
that.
like out like not
Yeah, it was
running
a lot of
into
fun.
each other and everything?
well,
Always a good show.
There were some tricks, but I mean, obviously everyone had been on the stage so much they knew where everything was. A couple of well-placed pieces of glow tape. And also, they weren't moving around as much as you thought they were. It just sounded like they were because you couldn't see them.
Right.
Use it, make it keep it simple. Keep it simple.
Yeah.
And, we're, as community theater artists, we've all had many times where we've stayed into the wee hours of the morning at Muck before, so we're pretty familiar with the space.
Yeah, we've been there quite a bit, I'd say, in the week preceding every single show.
Yeah.
But then we never do like the top 10 or whatever. But what is like artists? Would you consider maybe in the top range of your most challenging role you ever done for DVC?
Weren't expecting that one.
I was not
I have
expecting
to ask
that
the deep
one.
questions every now
I
and then.
like it. Well,
Doesn't have to be the top one, whatever comes in your head. I'm not like,
Because I have no way of knowing whether you're lying or not.
Was
Yeah.
there one
That
that
is
gave you
true.
more problems
and
or
I've
more
never
prep
been
time
one of
than
those
others,
like, what's your number one all-time album, movie, all that stuff. So
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
whatever pops in your head today is your toughest role. Besides being on the show with us idiots, he's still too.
well, I'm not quite. I'd have to do a lot more thinking to know about like my toughest ones, but I do know that so Ruslana and Yelena was always like one of my favorites, and I did like put a lot into it, especially because of the fact that like she was a much more like girly character, and she was more reserved. She wasn't from the lenient family, and there were a lot of different mannerisms and the way we had to speak, and the kind of floating across the stage and things like that. I also loved Titus Andronicus. That was a
I had to
really,
hand
really
it to
great
Pat
one.
on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did a great job in that. Yeah, Artemis was our Aaron. That is a tricky role to pull off.
I loved every minute of it. The viciousness was just so good.
We modernize these shows, but we keep the Shakespearean language, and so
it's like the supposedly like the heel pro wrestlers. Like the nicer the person you are, the more you like playing the evil people. It's like you just get the kick out of it. It's like,
well, that's accurate.
Hey, I'm nice sometimes.
So I know what it was like. It was really interesting for me. One of the most exciting things about doing this was before I wrote the characters back into the show, I contacted everyone that played the character back in the original production, and I said, "Do you want to do this?" And everyone. So I couldn't have all 8 return. 2 people were completely unavailable, living on the other side of the United States and such. But 5 of them said yes. And so I wrote the characters into the show. And so for me, one of the coolest parts of this whole process has been working with all of these people, some of whom I haven't worked with since that show, others that I've worked with on other shows. But it's been 2.5 years at least for all of us. So we're revisiting the characters, but we're also revisiting our connections with each other. And we're also kind of figuring out where we are as actors and writers and directors and artists and what that brings to the show now. So, for example, obviously, the character of Kennedy is in a very different place than she was. And so it's interesting to look at that. That's been probably, for me, the most rewarding part so far of the process.
Can you talk a little about some of the other actors and their parts, just briefly?
Sure. Do you want to do that, or do you want me to do that?
Yeah, you can start off with that.
MJ Savastano is returning in the show as the character of Lane, who is further along through, was actually clean years ago. So, and is in, most of the characters fall into their late 20s. Lane is a little bit older than that and has had more experiences with this and is kind of a mentor character.
Yeah.
And then we have Peyton, who has all of these characters at this point have been off of drugs for some time, or most of them, who are struggling with trying to find their place. Peyton is a very business-oriented, go-getter sort of person, and so she's sort of struggling with this idea of, if I don't stop, I don't have to deal with anything. Meanwhile, we have Jesse, who lost his brother to drugs and is going through this process of trying to have an intimate relationship, find someone to connect with and share a life with, but do that while still carrying the baggage of his past. And I'll let Artemis talk to you about what Kennedy's deal is right now.
So Kennedy's deal. Kennedy was dating someone in the group, but while they were so Kennedy was still using while the other character was sober. So that was a huge thing with them, and it inspired them because they were in love and they could fight through this together, and she could be saved and everything. And now she's going, and they're not together anymore, and now she is really struggling to cope with having that unknown thing that we don't know about just keep on happening, and you're not able to connect with other people. So being alone and trying not to use again is a very hard thing. So, then they have their, you also end up meeting up with their sponsor, and there's kind of a little bit of interest there. So that's also another layer to that is really hard to work through.
We brought in 4 new characters to establish with relationships with these people, and so the relationship that Kennedy has is with this character of Julian, who's Kennedy's sponsor, played by Caleb Wiggins, and so each of these characters, Lane, who I mentioned earlier, is having relationship issues also with a new character named Taylor, played by Alexis Maxim, and Peyton travels for business. And has the youngest member of our show, Shay, who has been waiting a long time to be in her second DVC show.
Yeah.
She's now in college. But it was great to bring her in. And then we also brought in Katie Keating to play the character that's in the relationship with Kevin Chava's character, Jesse. So, and then the whole thing sort of circles around our last other character, Hayden, who is sort of the narrator of the story. She's the one that speaks directly to the audience. She's the one that we find out really early in the show has fallen back into her habits of using and is struggling with that process. And so she kind of becomes the person that takes us through the journey of the show more directly by speaking, to you sitting there watching the show.
So I have a question. I've always been fascinated by these overdose stories because it seems to me, I'm just saying this as a person that never wants to do heroin, okay? Yeah. Why do kids get into heroin? I mean, I'm kind of assuming that each one of these characters has a different reason why they're in the situation they're in, and that probably you cover that. But I could never understand in this day and age, with everybody knowing what it does to you and that it's addictive, why anybody delves into that.
Yeah.
One of the things I really want to focus on with this show is, jokingly, Hayden talks about this, it's that we're looking at the boring aspects of addiction. It's the idea of how do people struggle day by day to go through things. Because it's really, sad. It's sad and tragic when people die, the overdose, the struggle, all of that stuff. But it's, addicts spend their whole lives on one level or another going through this process. And, the idea that it's the end of something, the story's over. I mean, it's not, right? It's this continual struggle. So that's one of the things the show deals with a lot, is this idea of how these people just kind of keep going day to day, even if they haven't used in years, even if it's just sitting in the back of their heads, it has in some way affected their lives. How they get there, I think part of the issue is that we have a lot of people. There's so many things we can talk about. We talk about the medical industry prescribing painkillers and opiates excessively, and then people taking them and supposedly not, and then the doctor saying, okay, you can't take them anymore because maybe they had an injury or something that resulted in them needing painkillers, and then realize that seeking them out other places. Very easy to become addicted to these things. Yeah. There's also the idea a lot of drug users don't know exactly what they're taking, because we have situations now where, even something as powerful as deadly as heroin can be considerably more deadly, because this stuff is manufactured and
Right.
laced with more addictive and dangerous material. And so that's a lot of that struggle comes from, I think it's very easy for people to fall into it. And of course, we all know, for whatever reason, someone can, do drugs a number of times and walk away from it. Alcohol, same situation. And for whatever reason, other people
Right.
it touches them in a different way, and their struggle becomes more serious. And there's a genetic component to that. There's so many things.
Yeah.
A societal component. And unfortunately, the amount of overdoses and struggles that we're having with drugs at a time where we're in a pandemic is significant. It was hard
And I have my own story about that. When I was last year in the hospital, they gave me Vicodin, and they gave me it once. They gave me some to take home, and
Got
they
any
said,
left?
just be really careful.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't take it. I have enough
Yeah.
issues in my family with substance abuse and addiction that I just took it when Wegmans had the thing. I just threw it out. I just didn't want to touch it. But I've seen, and people don't get, I don't think anybody who doesn't struggle with addiction doesn't get it is something that's going to be with you for life. So and you're not weak. And you should, these days, the only thing I like these days, I think you're more willing, it's like, get help, okay? Talk to somebody. I think more people know it's okay. You know, it's not a stigma. No, it's a problem you have, and you want to get help for it. Don't
Is it some sort of weird, I don't want to use the word twisted, but is it some sort of strange club, like a sense of belonging? Like, at least I have something have in common
like
with
drugstore
other
cowboy
people.
or
There's,
something, that type of
like-
movie.
Yeah.
Well, if you're getting off of, if you're in a situation where you're trying to get out of an addictive situation, you often have to change your entire environment, because
Right.
it has become a group.
Yeah, you have to
This
get away
group of
from your
people were
friends
together.
and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And this group is struggling to maintain friendships and support each other. But the reality is that, they all have this struggle with addiction. And the show deals with that. It also deals with relationships that they have with people who are not addicts. And
Interesting.
the complications of that. So
And I wonder, too, if you could ever, unless you are, if you can try to be empathetic, but can you understand it?
Right.
That's the thing. And I know, one of my dear friends, he's struggled with alcoholism his whole life, and he finally fell off again. I always say, look, we're all behind you. I have faith in you. Just get back up. Start day one.
right.
And
We got a job. He's just going. And I think also one of the big things for addiction, and I bring up Alice Cooper, where he said the addict's problem is time.
Yeah.
So that's why he golfs. He says, and he never gets tired of golf, because he says, I'm never going to get the perfect score. So it's like 4 hours. So he golfs every day.
yeah.
We have live music in the show. It is incorporated. It's not a musical per se, but we like to do this thing where we incorporate music significantly into the production. And we do have we have a band. We have a keyboardist who is doing her very first show with us. She is also a student at Wilson. We have an acoustic guitar player who is also our musical director, Doug Waterman. He's done many shows with us. And we're adding some percussion. Eric Snell, who graduated from Wilson and has also been waiting 2.5 years to do a show. And the three of them are performing music live during the production. The idea is to use the music to, of course, pursue the themes and capture the ideas that we're expressing in a different way than we see in the dialogue and the interaction with.
And that's some of the fun shows you've always had, where you've had music singing theme shows where you pick an artist and you do a thing surrounding. And didn't Vanessa Carlton even send you a message or something?
Vanessa Carlton did,
yeah.
and I'm glad that she's a fan of the show, because that is the show that we're going to do for our 20th anniversary. We're redoing
Well, how
that
did
show.
I know that?
Absolutely.
Because we've been talking about it for a long time.
Yeah.
This production, I chose music largely by people who, there's songs that struggle with addiction and ideas like that. So I mentioned Richie Sambora earlier, the guitarist of Bon Jovi, his solo work. And Demi Lovato and Conor Oberst, all artists who have, and Lord, who struggled with addictions of a different kind.
Cookie Keith Richards.
We did not. I don't know if you got the part about where we try to make the show timely. Okay, yeah. He's fine. Keith is doing great. So, but I wanted songs that dealt with this idea of isolation and struggle and the idea of how do we, well, I mean, these artists are expressing their struggles with life and their addiction through their art, and that's obviously what we're doing through this.
I was going to say, in general, too, like the kids who come into this, are they basically... It's like I know I come back from more of a musician background. Like off stage, a lot of them really shy, but it's like you get to play. The thing is, I've always seen that. I've seen it with drag queens an awful lot too, where in person they're like the most shy people. But it's a way of playing a character and coming out of it. I think I've seen that, and in music too. I know a lot of like your crazy musicians on stage. They're like incredibly shy off stage.
Right.
Like even Greg, who's like on stage, he's like, you know, insane.
Bombastic.
Yeah.
For lack of a better word.
You know, the best example I have, the Cramps, Ivy and Lux. If you ever met them, my brother met them. Used to work at one of the record companies. He said, you met them off stage. They're the shyest, most humble people you ever knew.
Well,
if
it's
you
funny,
see him on
though.
stage, he's trying to cut himself, run all around.
Well, yeah, you do a persona. I mean, that's just,
Yeah.
you hide behind it, sort of. It's like your secret thing, you know?
Right.
I mean, I watch myself on these videos, and I look like I'm just like, you know, I could be doing something else. I'm just like, I have no expression on my face. I'm just kind of playing, because it's so second nature to me.
Yeah.
I don't go out of my way to, like, do anything weird,
Yeah.
you know, because I just like playing. And I started looking, I'm going, man, I got to ramp it up a little bit. I don't spin my sticks. I don't do anything.
There's a
you know?
performance part to this performance.
Yeah.
Right.
But I was going to say one thing in terms of like your kids and stuff. When you bring something in a play, do you do it having like parts in mind for people you're working with, or do they just try out for them and see who's the best? Or?
So I'll answer that previous question and transition into this one. I think first of all, when we're using the term kids here, and so
That's what I mean.
I'm at an age. I'm just pointing out. I'm at an age where Artemis is the kids, right? But what that
Well,
means,
you are the old person here. We're all in our 20s.
What that means is someone I knew as a teenager who was involved in DVC and still.
I was
is.
thinking of your students
It was-
more than
right.
that.
When you get to
Yeah.
a certain age, the term kid changes quite a bit.
Does.
So yes, I totally all my 20-somethings.
Not goats. That does.
All my 20-somethings in the show.
I mean, I'm a
yes,
goat.
sorry, you're kids. And yes, some of them are we're kind of an anti-theater. These are anti-theater theater kids.
Yeah, we
So
really
I don't know if you
are.
want to talk about that a little bit, but
Yeah, so that definitely did happen for me. I was definitely, you know, one of the shyer kids, and it's like, so I also was born with a blood disorder. I was born with sickle cell anemia, and that also, which I wanted to bring up before, because I also had a similar thing where, you know, it's a very, very painful thing to go through. I am in pain every single second of my life and did not know that people existed without pain. And also on top of that, I have these things called crises where I go through debilitating pain at any point in time. So, you know, I get a lot of pain prescriptions because of that. And I don't, you know, always take it the exact way I'm prescribed, because I would be an addict, you know, or because there are people that have, you know, different proclivities, and like some people have addictive personalities to substances or addictive personalities to people, which is something that also we explore in here. Kennedy definitely has an addictive personality to substances and people. So, you know, but where was I going with that?
I think where you're going with it was the fact that you're in theater because you're
Oh,
weird.
yes, very weird. Also very
Best
shy.
reason ever
And,
to be doing.
Yeah, so I always, you know, I grew up having to learn how to adapt and be different and not be able to do everything that all of my friends could do. And, you know, I was very shy. I always liked reading all the time. I would just get my work done and be quiet.
Kind of nerdy. I don't know.
Yeah, I just grew into an even more fantastical nerd.
So in answer to your question about are there people in mind, I mean, certainly. So we obviously have people that we've worked with in the Rochester community a lot, supporters of DVC shows. Obviously, Patrick White being one of them. Many other people that have participated in DVC shows, multiple shows that we love having as part of our group. And so, it certainly there. Whenever we're going to do a show, I kind of look around and go, okay, you know, like we have a community of actors and people that we work with.
And I'll say that again. I'll just interrupt though. This, like for Rochester, we're blessed by the talent we have here in the art and everything.
Very much so.
We really are.
So much theater going on, and so much all of the art.
Well, was before something. Now it's back a little bit more.
Yeah.
I mean, we're still trying to pull ourselves out of that. But so certainly DVC does hold auditions. If you go to our webpage, which I'm sure we will,
and give a nice donation too. It's very worth it.
Oh yeah,
you can do that.
you know.
But when you can certainly see any upcoming information about shows, and you can there'll be information on auditions for shows. I did not do formal auditions for this production because I had so many returning actors, and I had a bunch of people that were supposed to be in our original 2020 show that wanted to still do the show. So I basically just transitioned everyone over into playing roles in this show. However, in many cases, we do indeed welcome and celebrate people from the community coming to audition for shows.
Absolutely.
And, you know, and the more people that we have connected to DVC, and the more people that are in DVC that connect to the, you know, out to the community, that's our goal, is to keep, you know, that sort of thing going. You just said we have a opportunity here. We have so many people, so many talented and expressive people in the arts here. And, you know, it would be...
Support the arts here.
Yeah,
just support the arts.
Not to have them be connected.
You know what you should do? Sometime, if you ever come up with it, if you're music, put Greg and me in a Hope and Crosby Road movie.
There you go. We're on the road to...
I can't do it. Like, literally, I respect this so much because, like, I was even, like, one of my friends once said, why don't you go up and do stand-up between our sets? And I'm like, if I know you, I'm great. Otherwise, I'm really shy. I would go up there...
Yeah, my
people. I respect
friend.
anybody who can get up in front of anybody and do this because I would I couldn't. It's like, you know, it would be like a movie. You trying to even get me to do a little part, and I would.
Yeah, my best friend is a comedian, and she's always trying to get me to go up there, and I'm like, I'm not funny when I'm trying to be. All right, I'm just a jerk sometimes who threatens to hurt people.
I like to come up with like jokes and stuff, but I'd be like, why don't you say them? I'll just come up with the lines. I'll be the writer's guy because I have good ideas, but it's like I'm not going to get up there and say anything. You know,
it's two very different things.
Yeah,
timing and delivery is completely different than writing the.
And that's why I can do this because I'm among friends. I'm in a comfortable environment and everything, and it's promoting our guests. It's not about us. So, and, you know, we have like eventually we'll have you back, obviously, to promote other things, but we'll talk Silver Age comics when you get more reading.
Yeah.
He's a master of it too.
Yeah, I love that stuff.
Okay, great.
It'll be awesome, but this has been really great and everything. I know you have a rehearsal.
Yeah.
You rehearse because you have to rehearse if you're going to do a play.
As it turns out,
you know, I figured that out. You have to rehearse it. You don't just come on that night and ad lib.
I'm glad Artemis is hearing this, actually.
Okay, see?
Sometimes I wander off into the woods and forget that I'm not an actual woodland creature.
How do you deal with the memorization thing?
Yeah, that's like I've asked MJ that a lot. Because
some people that can't even string a sentence together, like a lot of actors, I'm sure, memorize their lines and they're great, and you see them in person.
Unless you're
like,
Brando, because I guess what Brando used to do is he had people feed him the lines. He didn't memorize them.
Yeah, that's a little awkward when you're on stage, though.
Right.
Well,
just have someone off in the corner.
No, but I mean, do you have issues like what everybody says, kids can't think, you know, short attention span?
I can't think. I can't memorize. I don't get to guess names right on the show half the time.
Does that stop with the theater thing? I mean, do they just pour themselves into it?
Please speak from personal experience.
So I definitely have, you know, struggled a lot with, sometimes it comes easier and sometimes it's, you know, really difficult. It kind of fluctuates. Except when you're MJ, because MJ is just phenomenal at, you know, memorizing everything and doing one-person shows. I don't know how the heck to do that. But
I asked her about that for her Sylvia Plath show.
Right,
How in the heck?
That's crazy to me.
You got to go in a whole different zone.
Yeah, you do.
But this, it's. Do you think it's? Now I'm interviewing you. Do you think it has to do with the nature of the content? Was Shakespeare harder for you to memorize than, say, the more dialogue in this, or modern monologues? What do you think is?
Honestly, so dialogue is always going to be a little bit easier, at least for me. I think because, you know, it's actually more active listening and paying attention, and you're doing the scene with someone else instead of just doing an entire monologue yourself.
It's like one big prompt. If you know their lives, you'll know what you're supposed to say.
Right.
Yeah.
And like whenever I do have monologues or something like that, I usually will go through like memorize one line, say it over and over to myself, go to the second line, then say both lines to myself, then go to the third one and do it that way. So that's definitely how I do that. But sometimes I could just be a little bit weird, but I think actually Shakespeare helps me a little bit because of the iambic pentameter.
Yeah.
I really enjoy doing that.
Hitting the rhythm of the
Yeah.
Well, always remember,
That's
if you think it's difficult, think of like Homer or like those poets, where like if you read the Iliad and Odyssey, there's all the flowery word because they were spoken.
Yeah,
And he would speak this whole, 400 pages or whatever like we see now, but he could do it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tricky process, and that's everyone goes through a different. I think people have different techniques.
Yeah.
There's the spot in dialogue where you're like, hey, I learned my lines, but then you're like, oh wait, other people are all talking right now too. When do I say them?
You say it perfectly when you're at home by yourself in front of the mirror, but as soon as you get up in front of people,
Yeah, right.
I did. I did like the active listening thing you said, though. One of the things I think that helps a lot, at least I don't do much acting, but I do a lot of writing, and when I'm putting this stuff together, I think, does this line follow this other line, right? Like, it's a conversation. So if it's well written, then hopefully
it's much
what
easier.
you're saying is a product of what has been said to you.
Yeah.
So obviously there are exceptions to that, but
of course.
And whatever works for you,
sequitur.
it's like whatever. It's like I just think it's really, I really appreciate it because I can't remember like a page or anything else. I can remember random weird stuff.
you definitely can.
Yeah.
That's why you run this podcast.
Yeah. But it's been very fun. I know, as I said, you have to rehearse. And anything you have to add, Greg?
Nope, I'm good.
Greg is good.
I'm good. I'm
good.
playing at the beer park this afternoon at 4:00.
Oh, nice.
That's great.
My friend
awesome.
bartends
What-
there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He's actually the manager.
Oh yeah. Who?
Dom.
Don?
Dom.
Dom?
Dominic.
I'll have to say hi then.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool. But this is July 9th through 16th. Tickets are on sale, and the website works very well. I got my tickets.
Sure does. It's,
And there's a joke about that. Years ago, I used to just have, it might have just been me, though, because I'm not a techie. I had a lot of issues with the sites. I just say I'd call somebody up. Hey, we're coming. Just make sure, put our names down. I'll pay at the door.
So there's two ways. First of all, obviously, we perform at Multi-Use Cultural Community Center. So,
Muck.
At Muck. And that's just at www.muccc.org.
And you'll find it. I found it.
All the stuff for all of the shows that are happening. There's something going on at Muck almost every week.
Yes.
Yep.
You should check it out. There's all kinds of community groups. There's plays like ours. There's musical performances. There's
Dance.
Right. There's a lot of dance going on right now. All kinds of things. And if you want to check out DVC specifically,
Yay.
then go to our website, which is dvctheater.com. Right, but make sure you spell your theater with an R-E at the end, not
Because
an
we're
E-R.
fancy.
Because we're theater. Because we, of course, theater with the E-R being a building, more or less, and theater with the R-E being the process and the experience of theater. So www.dvcthea
Ooh,
He
English
doesn't
teacher
even
getting tripped
And
up.
I also appreciate the arts. I was at the RPO for the finale last week, and we do have all unfortunately, I'll say the C word with the COVID stuff. It's all masks and everything. You have proof of vax, too?
Yes.
So
I keep it in my wallet.
It's Muck's policy that you, which we fully support, that you need to show proof of vaccination and wear masks during the performance. And in fact, everyone in the theater, all of the actors and everyone involved in the show has to be vaccinated and wear masks at all times other than when we were actually doing the performance.
No, I really appreciate it, though. I think it's like, you have to go with the times. What do
Yeah.
Hopefully this will be over so we don't have another 2.5 years lag.
Right.
We'd like to make it to our second weekend of shows, and in order to do that, it'll be tricky. I mean, we've got some we're gonna hold off on our celebrations after opening weekend and all of that sort
And
of
then
thing.
we'll see what comes next. Let's play it by ear, right? Hopefully we'll have the 20th anniversary thing.
Oh yeah,
Say,
no,
yeah.
We're fully planning on doing a show last week of October, first week of November, which we'll be happy to come in and
yes,
talk to you
we'll
about.
do, as always.
And then
We'll drag you in for 2. You can talk comics on 1, then stay.
Love it, love it.
And we will have D&D Part 3 eventually. COVID got that too.
This is a lot of responsibility. You need to speak to my agent about this.
That's me.
But yeah, we fully expect to have.
Hey, we gave you free candy.
Keep
you
the
owe
reins
us.
on this guy. Yeah.
Hey, candy, popcorn, sushi. I take it all.
I'm a sushi addict, so I appreciate it. But we're going to have, this is the irony of ironies. Go see the show. It's going to be awesome. It really is.
7 years gone.
Yes, July 9th through 16th. Tickets available now. But this is ironic, because we always play music at the end. These are theater people, so we're not going to make them sing. But the
Artemis has a great voice.
The CD
I
have.
don't know what you're talking about.
But that's interesting, you having a great voice, because the person I'm playing the music by is your relative, Cammy Enaharo,
Yes,
who's a good
Cammy
friend of mine. And she saw the
Enaharo.
CD. She's, you know Cammy?
I do, yes. Cammy is my very sweet, very amazing, super talented first cousin, and I adore her so much. Like it's
I do too.
great
She's
that
just
you're playing
great
her
and
music.
everything. And stay tuned in August. Her and Katie Morey have something special. They have not announced it. But thanks you both,
Absolutely.
Mario and
Yes,
Artemis.
this was
Thanks a
great.
lot.
Yeah,
Thanks very
thank
much
you
for having us.
guys.
It's cool,
Fun.
and we're going to play the song Mystery Man, basically because she played it when she played with Katie, and I've heard it. And they're all good, but cool.
Bye.
I thought about it once to meet him in the back hallway, sitting on the stairs. A million miles from me, but he's somehow there to open up his mind and let me crawl inside. I get so lost when I'm in there. An opportunity that's getting hard to share. He's a mystery man. You'll never see him hold my hand. When I ask him what he's doing, he says what I want. And he sings all the time. And he says he's not mine. And if I told him that I loved him, he'd say that's just fine. An independent woman is who he likes to see. Real smart, spontaneous indeed. The kind that finished school with shorter legs than me. He doesn't like to pay in restaurants. His ways do tend to scare some girls away. But I would rather watch his banjo fingers play. He's a mystery man. You'll never see him hold my hand. When I ask him what he's doing, he says what I want. And he sings all the time. And he says he's not mine. And if I told him that I loved him, he'd say that's just fine. Oh, fine. Oh, well, fine. Oh, fine. Oh, well. And if you want anything more than what he wants, you'll never see him. Yeah, if you want anything more than what he has, he'll disappear. He's a mystery man. You'll never see him hold my hand. When I ask him what he's doing, he says what I want. And he sings all the time, and he says he's not mine. And if I told him that I loved him, he'd say that's just fine.